Well, good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to this Zoom Candidates Forum that's sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties, the Metro Organization for Racial and Economic Equality, more squared, and the District Advisory Committee. I'm Sandy Eads. I live in Kansas City, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters. Anitra Steele, the League's chair of forums, will be moderating tonight. This year, 2021, the League begins its second century empowering voters and defending democracy. The League of Women Voters is organized at local, state, and national levels, and our membership is open to people of all voting age. Since 1974, that includes men. There are over 700 member leagues representing 500,000 members and active supporters, serving millions of voters in every election cycle. We're a nonpartisan organization, and we do not endorse candidates. On the other hand, the League has always been issue-oriented and advocates at all levels of government for our positions on these issues. We base our advocacy after careful study and with the consensus of our members. The League is most well known for its voter services activities, taking part in voter registration, as well as candidate debates and forums, while bringing focus to the issues. Our popular website, vote411.org, will give you information about your particular ballot, including candidates, ballot issues, and more. The site is now live, so take time to visit vote411.org and explore your ballot. In addition to this Zoom event, we are also live streaming this webinar on Facebook. So thank you for joining us, and thanks to the candidates for being responsive to voters. To minimize distraction, we'll turn off viewers' audio and video so we can concentrate on the candidates for tonight's forum on the Kansas City School Board of Director positions. Rachel Thompson is the timer and will manage the countdown clock. Candidates have 90 seconds to answer each question and will make 2-minute closing statements. The countdown clock will warn candidates when time is about to expire. And the idea is to answer as many questions as we can before closing. We've determined the order of candidate responses so that we have a random order for each question already. So with that, I'll turn it over to Anitra.
Good evening. I will start with the question number 1. And this goes to Kandace Buckner, who got first in the drawing. Introduce yourself and tell us your motivation to want to become a school board member.
Hi, my name is Kandace Buckner. I am the 5th district candidate for KCPS board. I am a mother, I'm an educator, and I'm an advocate for public education. I have 2 children, one who is starting in the district come fall. And I would say that is my first motivation, just being a mom and wanting my own children to go to good schools. I'm an educator, sorry. I've taught upper elementary school for a little bit. I founded and directed a preschool. And for the past 4 years, I've been working with as a teacher educator. And I've been in classrooms every day for the last 4 years. Part of my job is to work closely with teachers and ensure that lessons are effective, engaging, and robust. And here with our recent pandemic, I have really seen the need for really strong leadership. Lastly, I would consider myself an advocate. I have worked closely with parent organizing groups, and just hearing from parents and just being a part of groups of parents who care deeply about their kids and want to see a strong and healthy district has really been a catalyst for why I'm running. Thank you.
Tanesha Ford, the same question. Do you want me to repeat it?
Sure.
Okay. Introduce yourself and give us your motivation to want to become a school board member.
Hello, everyone. I am Tanesha Nooner Ford, running at large for the board of Kansas City Public Schools. I am running because I believe in the power of public education, and I also see so much great opportunity and potential with our school district. I'm a product of this district. My husband, my parents, and so many other family members and mentors, people that I really respect and admire, come from this school district. And so it was no question for my husband and I, when we were deciding where we would live and where we would choose to send our children to school, that it would be Kansas City Public Schools. And so I'm the mom of a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. My oldest is starting in the district in August and will be going to Holiday. I am professionally, I've been working in education for about 16 years. I have worked at 2 different universities, and for the last 13 years, I've been working at the Kauffman Scholars Program. And so I've been able to support thousands of students, that many of them who've come from this district, seeing their challenges, some of their struggles, and even some of their successes are definitely motivation for me to be able to support as many other students in this community as possible. I have a deep desire to see our school district thrive, and I want to use my experience, my resources, my passion, and my energy to work to make Kansas City have better options for as many families as possible.
Thank you. Patty?
Good evening. My name is Patty Mansur, and I'm running for Kansas City School Board for the at-large seat. I currently serve on the school board as board chair. I've been on the board for 7 years now, but my association with the Kansas City Public Schools goes much longer than that, because I've been was a parent in this district, raised 3 children. One of my daughters is now a teacher in the Kansas City Public Schools. I have a very deep passion for the public schools. I put my children in the district some years ago when things were very, very rocky, when superintendents came and left every 1.5 years to 3 years. I saw a lot of turmoil and a lot of change. And what I realized out of that is none of the initiatives and smart strategies for instructional improvement could take hold because of that instability. I've been part of focusing on stability. My goal is to get us to full accreditation. I'm intensely interested in figuring out how we can address some of the schools that have still persistently underperforming, but I believe in public education. I've been an advocate for this school system for as long as I've lived in Kansas City. In my day life, I'm a nonprofit professional. I bring a lot of leadership experience and nonprofit community networks to this work. Thank you very much.
Manny?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Manny Abarca. I have the privilege of serving as the KCPS board treasurer and representative of the 3rd sub-district. I joined the board initially because I wanted to be a privileged member of a board that was already very successful. Right, I was joining a board who has selected an incredible superintendent who was making great strides in our school district, and be a part of that group of amazing leaders. This is not the district of 50 years ago, and the reality that our district is strained is not the case any longer. We do have many challenges that we are addressing and have a strategy to address. And so that is no longer a reality of a system that is failing. 1/3 of the population of our students are Latinx or Latino students. And I have the privilege of representing both the Northeast and the historic West Side neighborhoods, which are predominantly Latino. So I look forward to, unfortunately, I don't have an opponent, so democracy didn't truly work out in our favor here in this situation. I have the opportunity to serve again and look forward in focusing on continued stability for our district. The reality that the next superintendent will be likely selected within the next 4-year term is real. The reality that we need to make constant strides to prevent infiltration by other partners is real. And I look forward to serving as your next board member for 4 years.
Rita, please.
Hi, my name is Rita Cortes. I currently serve as the Sub-District 1 representative to the Kansas City Public School Board. I was elected in 2019, and similar to Manny, I am running unopposed in this election, which my hope is that every seat for KCPS will be contested as the system grows stronger. I think it's really important to a healthy democracy and to a healthy school board to challenge our thinking. And I wish I had spoken up earlier to make sure I had an opponent. Why do I serve? I serve because I believe that to have a healthy city, we need a healthy school system, a healthy traditional public school system. And for too many years, I worked in the business community, and KCPS was the furthest thing from the business community's mind. Today, under a terrific superintendent, I think the district is on the radar, but I think we're at a critical moment, an inflection point, where we can either move forward incrementally, or we can use some of the challenges of the last few years to allow our students and our district to grow robustly. And I think the opportunity is in front of us.
Thank you. Rita, you're first for this next question. What is your position on expansion of charter schools and the Missouri Empowerment Scholastic Account Program?
So I'm gonna very briefly say, I think the charters that exist today should be held accountable in the same way that the traditional public schools are. I believe that we are in a moment where we have charter schools. And so, but with regard to expansion, I think we need to be very thoughtful as a whole community about what it means to add schools in a system that's already strained by too many. And we need to do that intelligently and frankly together. And there's the system that's in place today does not promote, I think, intelligent planning and growth. With regard to the extremely well-named voucher program, I fundamentally disagree with the notion that public money should be used for educating students in private and particularly in religious private settings. I think that's counter to the reason that public schools exist in our communities. And rather than try to tear down public education in that manner, I think we ought to be finding ways to build it up. Public education is such a critical component of the growth of families, of the trajectory of individuals in this country. I think it's critical that we push back on these types of programs.
Manny, you're next.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. My colleague Rita Cortes hit it on the head here. The reality is we should probably be looking at reduction within our current system for the failing 50% of schools that are underperforming KCPS's academic standard now. Unfortunately, the legislature has been politicizing this reality of expansion and choice under the guise of lack of transparency. And so to that reality of expansion, I absolutely and vehemently disagree that we need to be considering that at all. When it comes to the voucher program, again, this goes back to the transparency, the accountability component, the equity component. As dollars start to move away from the traditional public school model where there is elected oversight, you're going to start to see special interest have more engagement here. And so, again, the voucher system looks to expand beyond KCPS boundaries and all public schools. What that could mean for rural communities could decimate public school systems within small towns. It's going to put strains on districts like the Center School District that is small enough to maintain what it is. But if you start to see major shifts of population, you could see the complete closure of a district that size. So these are unfortunately political assaults from the Republican supermajority in Jefferson City that are special interest based projects. And that's why you see special interest playing into elections. So with that, I'll turn over my 7 seconds.
Kandace, what is your position on the expansion of charter schools and the Missouri Empowerment Scholastic Account Program?
Yeah, we absolutely, I will agree with all that has been said. We have absolutely too many schools and not enough students to service them. I absolutely know that it is pulling money away from the district in that way. I will name that while, you know, I wholeheartly agree, we have these conversations about charter schools and you know, KCPS. I will say that I believe that with the schools that are here, that the district absolutely needs to work with those schools because charters are not going anywhere. And so I think we need to move forward in a way that is collaborative and really takes a look at our landscape here in Kansas City and be strategic and creative and working with families and business leaders to ensure that we have a healthy and robust system, because that's exactly what it is. It is a system of schools at this point. And so we really need to be strategic in that and not divisive. Again, charters are not going anywhere. Should we expand? No, I am absolutely against voucher programs. 100% public dollars need to stay in public schools.
Thank you. Patty.
You know, I really believe that the Missouri legislature should put a pause on any effort to expand charter schools. There had been a movement a couple of years ago from a Republican legislator, Representative Catherine Swan, calling for a study of the economic and educational impact of charter schools on Missouri school districts. And unfortunately, lawmakers would not go there. We can't roll back the school system that we currently have, but we can ask for a pause and a moratorium on additional charters because we have overextended our system right now. The Kansas City Public Schools did an education landscape study and has updated that study a couple times and has shared that study with charter schools. And it shows that there are more schools than there are students in this city. In addition, we've looked at our school system and the number of students that are being served right now compared with Springfield schools. And we see that we are spending more money on operations and less money on education. Each one of these schools is a system in and of itself. And so what you see is a repetitive spending on operational needs and not on educational opportunity. Vouchers similarly is an effort to just move public dollars out of public schools. I don't support it and I think it should be halted. Thank you.
Tanesha.
I agree with a lot of what's already been said as well. I think there's no question that we have a plethora of schools available in our school system. And I think school choice can, when it's unchecked, it could lead to a plethora of low performing school options. And I think it also can lead to competition within our school system as well. And I think it can eventually lead the conversation to where we're more focused on what the model is than the students that we are serving within that system. And so I think our push needs to definitely not be towards expanding the options because we have more than enough, but definitely be pushing towards having similar standards of transparency and accountability between both of the systems. And I think it's also important to just remember that the district does sponsor a charter school as well. And so I think we need to be careful with how we have this conversation. And in terms of the voucher system, I'm also opposed to that voucher system. I think public funds should absolutely be used to support public education. And I think funds, if used in that way, can be diverted away from the public education system. So I am opposed to the voucher system as well.
Thank you. This time we will start with Tanesha. Will you accept or are you receiving funds from any organization that favors a privatization approach or educational tax scholarships? And if so, are you part of that organization?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Will you accept or are you receiving funds from any organization that favors privatization approach or educational tax scholarships? And if so, are you a part of that organization?
So no, I'm not receiving any funds from any of those entities that you mentioned. In my own personal campaign, I've only received donations from individual donors at this point, about 187 to be exact, with an average donation of less than $100. And so I am not personally receiving any of those funds from any of those entities, nor am I affiliated with any of those organizations.
Thank you. Patty.
No, I'm not receiving any funds from organizations like that. I wouldn't likely receive those kinds of funds because I've been a champion for the public school system, Kansas City Public Schools, for a long time. I think that has probably frustrated people in this community who have really put forth a charter mindset, but I am not. My supporters are people in the community, families and neighbors who have watched me work over the past 7+ years for better public schools.
Manny.
I think I have a total of about 6 donors, which I'm very thankful for, but this is the benefit, unfortunately, of not having democracy play out its scenario here. Of those 6 donors, I can vehemently say there is no consistency amongst those donors individually that have a similar connection at all to any of those entities. Now, you can go and look at our MIMEC reports and see specifically where our donations come from, the quantity, the addresses, the employment statuses of all of the folks there, and I would encourage folks to do that. But just like Patty, I have been a vehement opposition of charter schools and the systems because of the lack of accountability. And I served on a charter school board for 2 years and expressed this frustration of lack of accountability, transparency, and academic performance while I was on that school board. So again, the answer is no.
Kandace.
Absolutely not. I like it has been named. The facts are on MEC in the report. I've raised close to about $4,000, and the average donation is about $75 from the average voter. All of the information is transparent. It is available to all who are interested, but no, absolutely not.
And Rita.
So similar to Manny, because I'm running unopposed, I have actually declined offered donations during this campaign. And to the extent that I've needed any resource, I think there's one contribution on my report from me. So again, to Manny's point, we should be having more competition for these seats, and that's my hope for the future.
Thank you. This is to Manny. Have you read the latest MSIT 5 2019 school summary report for the school district?
Yeah, amongst these wonderful things back here are all of the documents that we have to read as school board members. And I will tell you, we do not have a lack of things to read. So amongst that is all of our board reports that we get additional summaries that have us focused. The special sessions that we do as well to do educational backgrounds allows us to ask questions and build out, because again, we're governors in this situation. We aren't practitioners. The reality is it is not our intent to be word for word disciples of these strategies. That's the superintendent's job and his team of capable and qualified leaders. And so I very much try and read it to my level of understanding. But the reality is I'm not an educator. My job is to make sure to think critically and to question certain decisions as we move forward and rely on the expertise of those who are paid to be the educators in our system. So yes, we've read these reports, we've read many other reports, but I will not be the first one to say I'm ready to break it down and tell you exactly what we should do, shouldn't do, and what we should change in that system.
Okay. Rita, have you read the MSIT 5 2019 report?
So the short answer is yes, I have. The longer answer is, I think it's interesting that in the state of Missouri, we publish reports that require translation for most of us to understand what they mean. I think that is a fundamental weakness in how we talk about public education and how we inform the public about public education. And I'm actually going to loop that into a question that someone put in the chat, because I think that when you look at those reports, they certainly tell you that we have opportunities that we've created, but plenty of opportunities for growth. And I believe my answer to the gentleman who asked if we're against vouchers or expansion of charters, what are we going to do for today's students, is I think we need to have a sense of urgency in everything that we talk about, in everything that we evaluate, and in how we make sure that we don't miss another generation of kids that don't have the quality of opportunities that we believe they should. And that means pushing as much of our resources into our classrooms as possible. That is a governance question, right? We talk about the budget, we talk about how do we make sure that we are supporting our building leaders, that we are supporting student achievement, and that we're setting the bar as high as we possibly can to make sure that our kids have an opportunity to learn and grow.
Kandace, have you read the MSIT 5 2019 report?
No, I haven't. I am not currently a school board member, but I have been talking to parents and to students. When elected, I will rely heavily on the experience of the superintendent and hold him accountable. I just believe that, we absolutely as a board should be informed on that through and through. And then to Rita's point, knowing it through and through so that it can be communicated to our community, our families, and our students.
Tanesha?
I am familiar with the different components of this report, but I have not necessarily read it myself. In preparing myself to be able to run for a school board seat, I've done a lot of research on different documents and reports and different items that are available for public viewing, so I can have a better understanding and awareness and apply my own personal experiences to what I've learned. But I've not yet personally read that report. But that would be something that I would definitely be interested in reading more thoroughly prior to serving officially in an office.
Thank you. And Patty, have you read the report?
Well, I've read pretty much of the components of this report. I had the opportunity 2 weeks ago to be interviewed by two individuals from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, because they are currently reviewing the Kansas City Public Schools academic performance to make a determination whether we are really meeting the targets that we need in order to secure full accreditation. I feel very good about that process. It has been a journey, but we are making critical gains in areas that the state has been monitoring us on for some time. One of those areas is actually includes governance, that there has to be sound and thoughtful and well-informed governance that understands its role and provides the wherewithal for the leaders to lead, and that we function from a strategic and high-level governance process. It also looks at graduation rates, and I can tell you that the MSEP 5 report has shown significant gains in our graduation rates. We have jumped from about 68% to 75%. It talks about college and career readiness, and we are making improvements there with advanced coursework. So there are many, many data points there that demonstrate the positive growth we are making.
Thank you. The Missouri Department of Education has 4 rankings for public traditional school districts: unaccredited, provisional, accredited, and accredited with distinction. How is the district planning to rise from the current DESE accreditation? And this starts with Rita.
So I think there is, I think, right now the ball is in DESE's court around whether we're going to keep, I think there's a little bit of a Charlie Brown aspect to the accreditation process. And every time the MSIP standards change and the tests change and the way things are graded and or scored and evaluated, it presents a challenge. And so when you look at, I think holistically, the progress that the district has made from the time it was provisionally accredited to now, KCPS has a very strong case for why it meets the standards for reaccreditation today. I think frankly, the strategy to move from provisionally accredited to fully accredited has to be centered around the measurements that are used. And unfortunately, some of those measurements are, things that are challenging in an urban school setting where we have high mobility. So the fact that attendance is a critical component of that measure has consistently been a drag on the district's ability to move from provisional to reaccreditation. But I think as we continue our push with regard to student achievement and college and career readiness, we will get over that bar with or without changes in the system.
Thank you. Patty?
So when Dr. Bedell was hired and came to Kansas City in 2016, and after he did a deep assessment of where we stand in terms of our capability of securing accreditation, he told us right then and there, and he wanted to tell the entire community, it's going to take us some time. So he didn't overpromise, and I really respect that about him, because obviously we're very hungry for that. I will tell you that I believe we're making incredible gains in this journey. We have hard work to do to still close gaps for students, but our results are showing that progress. Of our 34 buildings, 8 are identified as needing additional intensive support. So I think that's where our focus has to be going forward, and really sort of ratcheting up our efforts there. I think those schools are probably going to need even more than just instructional strategies. They probably need other social and emotional supports to help them over this hurdle. But the progress is there. Dr. Bedell is in constant communication with DESE. And by the way, for more than 7 years, DESE has been monitoring our data. All of this work is done with complete transparency and openness with the state. So all of the work has been aligned with what the state expects of us. It is hard to get accreditation, but once you get it, it's hard to lose it. And we've seen that among some of our peer schools. Thank you.
Kandace?
I just firmly believe that equity and achievement needs to be prioritized over system accreditation. So we know a lot goes into accreditation. And I would really want to see this district focus on student achievement. Yes, we have issues and we have, obstacles that we need to overcome in order to achieve accreditation. Yes, we should receive accreditation. But I think in whatever we do, in whatever strategies that we put forth, we need to ensure that there is strong correlation to high student achievement. And so I think that's where I would want to see the conversation lead, because once we get the trophy, I want to make sure that we stay on a very bold growth track. And so we've seen, these small incremental growth, and we've seen change, but I would really like to see us move the needle and really focus on high academic achievement.
Thank you. Manny?
Really hard to follow my colleagues here. They have pretty much wrapped it all up pretty tightly there. The only thing that I would probably add and double down on somewhat of what Patty had said, and kudos to both Patty Mansur and Jennifer Wolfsey for kind of driving this effort. Our equity funding model is something that's very unique for school districts that focus on the equity requirements for the schools that she had mentioned and placing additional resources there where they're needed. And so that is something that was adopted by the past board, which I think plays into probably one of the things that I would add as well. The consistency of leadership and focused attention on the strategy that Dr. Bedell and his team has been paramount, right? And in previous superintendents, they're pulled this way or that way, chasing special projects or special funding grant programs. And there was never the level of focus and attention driven towards the academic achievement of the district. And so now the data-driven focus that we have, the equity funding model and the consistency and the governance and leadership has very much played into the strong gains. I mean, gains outside of even the state averages that KCPS has made over the last several years. And so we are very close. But we still have so many challenges, right? I mean, we have this special interest in Jefferson City and even locally clawing at our doors, trying to rip funding away, all while we're trying to stay focused on the academic achievement of minimally accreditation. So yeah.
Tanesha.
Again, I would just add in that we are absolutely at the mercy of DESE. I am a champion and am really proud of the work that's been happening at the district to push at the state level for the accreditation. I would love to see the community more engaged in pushing for that accreditation as well. But I do believe firmly that regardless of what happens at the state level, our goal and our whole intent and purpose should be to provide high quality options for all of our students, period. And so I think we need to continue to focus on student outcomes, continue to focus on how our students are performing, continue to focus on this opportunity gap that is continuing to widen with some of our most marginalized students. And so I believe that accreditation is important for our district, but the outcomes for our students is even more important. And regardless of what happens, we just need to continue to push to have that growth and strong performance, strong quality for all students at all schools.
Thank you. Our next question starts with Manny. How is the district planning to help students gain academic assistance that has been lost pre-COVID and during COVID?
Yeah, this is where I think Dr. Bedell and his team has been very innovative, right? So we're talking already about night school, summer school, expanded schedules to provide academic opportunities to mend those gaps. The challenge has been the funding component, right? I mean, as we live in a state that failed to acknowledge that COVID-19 was real until halfway through the pandemic, the reality is the funding did not follow that as appropriately as it should have, trickling down from the federal government. So now with the new Biden administration and the Senate and House being controlled by a Democratic majority, there's likely going to be more funding that is going to help support those efforts to not only innovate in how we're going to mend those gaps, but also look at our crumbling infrastructure. We have $400 million of deferred maintenance. And so we have to make sure that as we start to rebuild outside of COVID, not just on the academic components, but with these stimulus dollars, we're being very strategic about where we're placing these funds and making long-term investments. And so I think the district, and again, Dr. Bedell and the previous leadership of the last board that includes Ms. Mansur and Ms. Wolfsey had put into place this 2030 vision planning here, creating a strategic plan that focuses on a lot of these components just to shore up our own academic efforts prior to COVID hitting. And so now we're just kind of expediting that implementation process, and we're looking forward to the innovative solutions that Dr. Bedell and his team proposes.
All right. Rita?
My colleagues occasionally make fun of my technology skills, so that seems appropriate for tonight. I believe that our ability to help students, and I think the language that our administration is encouraging us to use is accelerate learning, right? part of what really impacts our students, our families, really any kid, right? Who's we're trying to develop their enthusiasm for learning, is to talk about their deficits, right? So the goal is to really, how do we accelerate learning? And I think the administration strategy is one that I support and want to continue to push the accelerator on, which is, how do we use the tools that we have invested in at the district level to assess and engage students, to design what are effectively individualized learning strategies, so that each student, we know what building blocks each student needs, and teachers and specialists can engage with those students to help them each grow those necessary building blocks in their educational tools. I'll stop there.
Okay. Tanesha.
I would just like to highlight that I think that it's important for whatever plan and whatever direction we take. If any plan does not include the voices of students and families in determining the long-term plans, I don't think that that's necessarily the best plan. And so it would just be my hope that those conversations are absolutely happening. I think we absolutely need to be as innovative as possible. And I don't think that there should be anything that's off limits in exploring different options to help bring students back up to speed. I'm inspired when I think about some of the literacy programs that are in existence for adults and adults who are going back to school to try to get their GED. There's a way that we are able to apply that acceleration that Rita spoke to and that intensity to bring adults up to speed in a very quick manner. And so I think we can apply some of those same lessons into working with our students. I think we will have to explore different options like night school, how we utilize our summers, how we utilize the day. I think we will need to get really creative in exploring, but I think it is totally possible to help our students get back on track.
And Patty.
So the district does call it accelerated learning because, you know, we are looking at our students not from a deficit perspective. And I think that's really important. The administration has not yet rolled out its summer school plans, but they have already informed the board that they are looking to extend the length of summer school and really add additional components in it that will be aimed at really tackling some of the learning losses that have occurred during this year. There is actually some night school has actually already started. Central High School is doing that. Students can request and be access faculty into the evenings, I think up till 9 o'clock at night, sometimes even later. Northeast High School is also doing, and East High School are also offering night school. What you're seeing in Kansas City is not unlike what you're seeing in other parts of the country, which is high school students many of them have either lost some engagement during the school day, or they've actually gone to work to help their families because of the effects of the pandemic. And because of that, this is becoming a growing interest, which is offering night school to address and keep students on track so they don't give up and we don't lose them in this process. I think these strategies are unique and are working, and we obviously still have additional work to do.
Thank you. Kandace. I've lost Kandace. Oh dear, no Kandace. This hasn't happened before. So I think what I will do is give her the opportunity to come back and move on to the next question and then have her answer both of them. This question will go to Tanesha, and it will be, what should our district be doing to ensure the safety of students and staff? Tanesha?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that one more time? I heard safety.
What should our district be doing to ensure the safety of students and staff?
I think the district, if we're talking about in relation to the pandemic and COVID, I think the first piece that we need to make sure we're doing is surveying and making sure that we have a deep understanding of the comfort levels of our students. I would hope, and I believe that there are already plans in place to make sure that all of our teachers are vaccinated as well. I would hope, and I'm assuming that there are already plans in place as we've already started to return to school to make sure that we are following all of the CDC guidelines, making sure that we are having properly social distance, that we are providing PPE, that we are doing proper sanitation and all of those things. I think if we are just following the guidelines of other districts and learnings from other districts that have already gone back to in-person learning before us, I think we can prevent some of the mistakes that have already been made. So those are some of the things that come to mind for me when thinking about the safety and security of students as it relates to the pandemic and COVID.
Welcome back, Kandace. We'll give you a minute and have you answer both questions at the end of folks answering this one. Our next person is Rita on ensuring the safety of students and teachers.
So I think ultimately it's follow the science and the research, right? And accept the fact that what we know changes, right? What teachers teach in classrooms from year to year is not static, nor is what we know about COVID and the safety precautions related to it. And I think that we are at a point in our progression from the pandemic that we know many of the things that we can do to ensure safety. We can't ensure perfect safety, nor have we ever done so. And I think it's important to also be clear about that. But we know that schools have been able to operate with appropriate safety. And I think it's really important that as we return to in-person teaching and learning this week, that the adults are able to develop confidence in their students' abilities to be ambassadors of those safety measures. I mean, what I've heard from educators all year who have been in person is that the kids are really prepared to be part of the solution with regard to safety. They are committed to, they want to be in school. They want to be with their friends. And so what I hope we have the opportunity to do is to learn our way through this together, and where we need to challenge, but also be willing to walk in, to lean into what we need to do from a safety standpoint.
Thank you. Patty, what do we do to ensure the safety?
Significant amount of the spending that we've had to allocate as a school board has been devoted to some of the safety measures. So that includes temperature stations, sanitation, plastic shields, setting up classrooms, and putting stickers on floors that direct students as to how to enter the building and how to go down the hallways. Protocols for how to board a school bus, and protocols for how to eat lunch. I think one of the things that I really appreciate is that we brought our teachers back 2 weeks ago so that they had their opportunity to become comfortable in the school setting. And that gave them a chance to kind of re-enter with all of their colleagues and get their feet on the ground. And I think that has helped a lot as we've started this phased approach. As you know, my colleague Rita has said, we're following the science, but we understand there is no perfect approach that can prevent any kind of illness. But I have a lot of confidence in our facilities department, in our HR department that is manning this. And then, by the way, we've started vaccinations this week. Teachers have started getting vaccinated as of Monday. We have terrific partners in Truman Medical Center, Children's Mercy, and Rogers Health. So I think we've got it underway.
Manny.
Yeah, so this one is fun because, as my colleagues know, I have been a vocal advocate against reopening so quickly. And I think that's funny because I'm sure if you scroll through my tweets, you'd probably see that I was a vocal advocate for not closing so soon. And so, as Rita had said, things change very quickly when it comes to this pandemic. And as we get more information and have better understanding of what's the best interest of everyone, we have to also change, right? And so I have an occupational safety management degree, a master's degree. So I took an entire class on risk. And the major focus is talking about mitigation. It's not elimination, because you can never eliminate risk to completely an unsafe or a safe environment. So the mitigation is important. And I can tell you vehemently with 100% confidence that our team is doing everything in their power to make sure that we have the safest facilities set in motion right now. I look forward to going on tours next week of the folks who just started this week to make sure and talk to people directly, right? Hear from folks who are doing this day to day. And likely I'm going to hear, well, I ran out of Clorox bleach wipes. So can you help me get these or that? And those are small things, right? But the reality is, as I've talked to our teachers union and our SEIU, our custodial and food service staff, there have not been major complaints about the safety concerns in our buildings. And I think that goes back to the reliability of folks doing right in the beginning, engaging folks, engaging the DAC to make sure that parents are aware of what's going on and doing it proactively to be as prepared as we could be.
Thank you. Kandace, do you want to answer this on ensuring the safety of students and staff in the district first?
Sure. So I think it sounds like the district is doing a lot of great work in ensuring that our teachers and staff are as safe as possible. Like everyone has named, there's no real way to ensure that no one gets sick. There's just no 100 foul-proof way. However, I will say that in addition to that, we have to look at the reality of, yes, we can follow the science and we can be safe in that way, but I also want to hear from, do our teachers feel safe, right? And so I think getting a real clear pulse on how our teachers feel and our staff feels, because the reality is you can't do good work if you don't feel safe. Right? You can't show up for people. You can't show up for kids unless you feel safe. No matter what the science is, what is it that we can do to ensure that our teachers have everything they need? And I say they on an individual basis to ensure that we're doing everything on our end to make sure that they're showing up for kids and in their greatest capacity. So I think that's key.
Thank you. Do you want to go back to the previous question that we lost contact with?
Yes, can you repeat it?
Yeah, how is the district planning to help students gain academic assistance that has been lost pre-COVID and during COVID?
Again, I think it's collaboration. It's collaboration with our parents and our families, because anything outside of that is really like this institution creating something for our students and our families and not with them. And we know how counterproductive that is. So that is absolutely key. And I will just name that, our students want to be in school. They need to be in school because of the learning loss. And I think it's just on the district's job to get really creative. It sounds like Dr. Bedell and his team, they're being creative, they're thinking outside of the box. And I think we just need to continue with that momentum and take a really, really close look at our data and respond accordingly.
Thank you. Next question, and this starts with Manny. What do you see as the role of technology in education?
Oh, I think it's critical, right? I mean, as we looked at our first major expenditure post COVID, sorry, there's a German Shepherd right here trying to dissuade me from talking to you all. As we looked at our first major expenditure, that was buying devices and Wi-Fi access points, right? And that reality of a digital environment, we ended the digital divide for our community very quickly. We had to make some modifications and expand that to an extent, but that is a commitment we've made now and will continue to make. When we look at our KC Virtual Academy, the reality is, and Dr. Bedell mentioned this at our last school board meeting, is this option is going to be present beyond COVID-19. And so there are benefits to this, right? As we've seen, even in higher education institutions, this different model of providing more access to folks has bettered the community utilizing the system. And similarly, we plan to do the same thing. Now, what specifically does that look like right now? That is unclear. That is something that we rely on Dr. Bedell and his team to present to the board, but I'm anxious, excited, and I'm just thrilled to see that we're using not only innovative technologies, but all of these decisions are being data driven, right? I mean, so it is no longer a, hey, go buy 10 iPads, or hey, iPad gave us 30,000 for free, now let's buy 50,000 more. It is all very poignant and focused efforts that has a strategic plan behind it. And Dr. Bedell and his team, I'm sure, will propose the next phase of what the technology will look like for our future.
Thank you. Rita, what role do you see for technology?
So I'm going to build on what Manny talked about. I think that technology is a tool that has to be interwoven into our teaching and learning, but it has to be something that is amplifying for our teachers and not something that is kind of an either or, right? And I think that means that the district has to continue to invest consistently in professional development around the use of the tools that we've invested in, not just the hardware devices, but the very many pieces of software that work with our different components. And the other thing that we have to be really mindful of as a community is that every time we invest in new technology, that technology has to be maintained and reinvested in on a regular basis. So as we look at what it costs to operate a school district, having technology as a robust partner in teaching and learning means that the expansion of resources to support those platforms for our students. Technology isn't a one-time investment. It's a continuing investment if you use it as a critical tool in teaching and learning.
Patty.
So it was kind of amazing in March of last year when we suddenly closed up shop right as we were getting ready to start spring break, and then had to figure out quickly how to pivot. Last year, early in the months of COVID, we acquired 13,000 devices, Chromebooks, laptops. We acquired about 7,000 Wi-Fi hotspots, determined that we had to acquire additional hotspots because when you have a lot of students using a lot of time on their hotspots, they eat up that time. And so it has been an extraordinary investment. We've been fortunate because CARES Act money that we were able to receive both directly from the state of Missouri and then through the distribution from Jackson County made it possible for us to make those acquisitions. But these are not one-time expenses, as has been said. These are ongoing investments that we have to make. I think technology is really going to change the way we do school in the future. But I also don't think technology is a substitute for the in-person and the personalized engagement and connections that teachers have with their students. So we do have a tech team that's designed not just to do IT, but a separate team that's IT education instruction. And I think that's making the difference.
Thank you. Kandace.
So I think we need to look at the end goal here. And so if the end goal is to have effective teaching and learning, then I think we need to be responsive to that. So our students use technology every day and for everything. And so I guess my biggest question would be, will this, whatever piece of technology we have, will it engage students? Will it move the needle? And so I think we answer these questions by collaborating with teachers. I don't want us to live in the world where we look at the question of technology as a blanket statement. Our teachers are individuals. They need to have the autonomy to use what they need in order to move the students for their classes and their students. I think they just need to have the access to do it. And so I hear the sentiments regarding funding and all of this. I think the bigger question is, what does the data say and how are we responsive to that in order to ensure that our teachers have what they need and our students do as well?
Thank you. Tanesha.
I would say that technology is absolutely a tool. It can be a great tool to enhance learning experiences. I would say that previously it would have needed to definitely be used as more of a supplement, but now it's absolutely become more of a necessity, and it's definitely more key to our learning experiences than it's ever been. I agree with the statement that this virtual world is going to be around and will be a part of our new normal. And so I just think that we need to make sure in moving forward in how we incorporate technology that we're making sure that it's working for students and for teachers and not against them, not creating any unintended consequences or barriers. Those are things that we have to definitely take into consideration. I am hopeful though for all of the great innovation that technology is going to help us to implement. I think it would be great now that we've realized that place in terms of physical location does not have to be a barrier. I think that it's going to create some wonderful opportunities for us to provide blended learning opportunities for students. I think it could be a wonderful world if we can combine language immersion schools with college prep schools and foreign language and performing arts, all of those opportunities together. And I think technology can be a great tool to help us achieve that in the future.
Thank you. This starts with Patty. What kind of relationship should a district board have with its community, with parents and families, with teaching and classified staff?
Well, obviously a good one. I mean, I came to this school board as a parent. I still had children in school when I was first elected to the school board. I understood the frustrations of parents very well. I think we've done some really important things to grow our connections to parents, and we still have more work to do, undoubtedly. One of the things I'm also very proud of is the relationship we have with our teachers. We have a teachers union, and some people may say, wow, that must really be a hindrance, but I don't see it that way. Our teachers are incredible professionals, dedicated to their craft, certified, have done their practice and study. And I think that even when we have negotiations that sometimes we come to points of difference, what I found is that we have worked through those points of difference. I am proud of the fact that we have that workforce and that we really strive to respect the rights of these professionals and grow them. So I think it's incumbent on a board to really look at our workforce collectively as valued partners. None of this work gets done without us paying attention to those relationships and that the work is beneficial on all sides. Students will win in the end.
Kandace. What kind of relationship should the district board have with its community, with parents and families, and with the teaching and classified staff?
A collaborative relationship. I think, we have a lot of conversations about parent and teacher input. And, I think it's a little bit more than input. I think we need to take a look at how we define engagement. What does engagement look like? And I would like to see engagement look like a collaborative effort. I'll agree, we have amazing teachers, brilliant teachers that I see at work every day, and they're super creative. And so they have a lot to say, they have a lot to contribute to the bigger picture. And I think we keep them out of those conversations a lot of the time. as I would say the same for our parents. We have to redefine what parental engagement looks like. Does it mean that, what does parental engagement look like? Does it look like, you know, you come and you bring treats, or you come and celebrate this big win? Or does it mean, hey, here's an issue that we're having, and what ways can we work together in order to solve it? And so that's what I believe that that involvement looks like and engagement looks like.
Thank you. Manny, the kind of relationship boards should have?
Yeah, so this is sometimes hard for me, and I'm sure Patty probably shares this as well as my other colleagues. When we go into buildings, this is one of the greatest opportunities that we have to do that authentic engagement, whether it's in the evening for programs and presentations from our students, or as we just take a tour of our building to talk with our custodial staff, our teachers, our administrators who are there, walking that fine line of not being the superintendent, because our role is governance, but having that direct connection with folks is sometimes challenging for me. But the reality is the district is doing incredible work, and has been for a very long time. And I think Patty's a great example of that, right? I mean, as she's matriculated as a parent, working through the district advisory council, and then ultimately deciding and making the choice to run for school board, that system clearly worked. Is it working always? Do we make mistakes? Absolutely, as everyone does. I will tell you, I do not have kids in the district, but as a community member and leader here in the neighborhood association, I was first engaged by our high school principal, and I was asked to serve on an advisory council. Then that led to a mentorship opportunity, and I was a mentor for our students. There are a plethora of opportunities to engage not only our parents, but our community members. And it is inspiring, and I look forward to expanding those opportunities. But there are also mistakes that have been made that we need to address and move forward from.
Tanesha?
Yeah, I would say the relationship absolutely should be one that's healthy, but also is two-way. When I think about being on a board, I think outside of governance, your priority should be to help to implement the vision and the values of the community. And I think that the only way that you are able to do that is if you are in pure relationship with the community, and you're finding opportunities and spaces to be engaged. I think that we can always do a better job of figuring out ways to engage parents, community members, business community, and other stakeholders. I think that that is extremely critical during the election cycle, but more importantly afterwards. And so I think that those relationships with all of those different entities, including staff and including students, is critical in improving academic outcomes for our students.
Thank you. And Rita?
So I don't have kids, so I don't have students in the district. I think that the best way, there are many ways that the board can engage with different aspects of our community. I think the most important feature in a board member is the ability to listen well, and not only to hear what people are saying, but to listen for what they're not saying. Because, and also for us to make clear that what we hear won't always be able to take immediate action, but may influence our actions in the future. Last night I spoke with the District Advisory Council about the budget, and there we look out many years in the planning of the district, and what someone says in 2021 may not be actionable in the present moment, but it will influence our thinking and our ability to understand the whole environment in which we operate. I think too often, and I'm not speaking about KCPS, but just about boards in general, board members are pushed to make promises that they don't have the authority to deliver on, right? As Manny says, our role is governance. So we need to understand the thoughts and the experiences and the inputs of a broad range in our community. So what we need to do is be present. And we need to be present as often and as everywhere as we can. That was not grammatical, I apologize.
Very good, thank you. This is starts with Tanesha. The Kansas City continues to tiff away school district and library monies. Will you fight their use of TIFs? Tanesha.
I'm not opposed to TIFs because I understand when done properly, it could bring a lot of great opportunities to our community in terms of development, in terms of talent, in terms of new jobs. I think all of those things are extremely important in growing our city. But when done poorly, I think our school district, our libraries, and our other systems suffer. And so I'm in favor of us just continuing to seek out ways to make that process more equitable. I know that there have been some strides in changing the ways that it's done over the last couple of weeks. I think we would ideally see a lot more that's favorable to the district, but I think it's absolutely a step in the right direction in making sure that we are seeing equity in that process.
Thank you. Patty, tips.
You know, the Kansas City Public Schools has been at this table for a very long time, trying to get fair and equitable response to development in Kansas City. And I think about it like, you know, Thanksgiving dinner, we'd been sitting at the kids' table in the kitchen while other people were at the dining room table making the decisions. Kansas City Public Schools is ranked like 17th out of 5,600 school districts nationally for the amount of tax abatement for happening in our city. There has been some really good movement recently and leadership in our city council to get a resolution for this current situation. It's not, we haven't achieved all that we want as a district, as a taxing jurisdiction, but is definitely a move in the right direction. The Kansas City School Board as a body and the administration have not said that we are anti-development at all, but we want, you know, fair and clear analyses. We want to be informed and have a voice at the table early on. And we think that there should be greater focus on development in areas of the community that really need it most. And so I think we will continue to be a voice for those particular things and hope that the most recent ordinance gets us a little bit closer to where we need to be.
Rita, regarding tax incremental financing.
So I come from a little bit different place because of my background. I essentially spent most of my adult life working with the development community and in different roles. And I see, you know, I don't see the development community as good or bad for using the tools that are made available to them under our public policy. I think we have to be strong advocates for KCPS about why public policy needs to be more rational. And I think that the district has done a good job of that recently with the help of many people who are on this Zoom, right? And developers will push the rules all the way to their limits. They will not self-police because that's not their responsibility in their minds. It is a communal responsibility. We for KCPS have to advocate that it's unwise to mortgage our future for the benefit, to mortgage our present and our future, right? Because some of these go out through more than one generation of kids. So what we need to advocate is for rational development, rational use of incentives where it benefits our whole community, and to continue to refine the tools that exist, and to strongly advocate and lobby the decision makers about which projects best benefit our community. And I agree 100% with Patty that development really needs to be happening much more broadly in our community and not focused in our downtown core.
Manny?
Oh, I love this question so much. As treasurer, my job is to protect the treasury. So the reality that TIFs have been abused in our city is an understatement, right? I mean, agreed with Rita and with Patty about a lot of the sentiments there. The reality, though, is a lot of times when people think about how do we get more money for a school district, they think, oh, let's do a bond initiative. Let's go out and ask people to tax themselves some more. But in this situation, this is a tax that's already been passed that unfortunately the city council is giving away. These are valuable dollars that could be going towards our classrooms and our students. I think the clock stopped, by the way. Okay. Valuable dollars that could be going there that unfortunately are going to corporate interests. So, which helps transition a little bit to some of the other issues, right? We've got corporations not paying their fair share of property taxes. And so these things extrapolate the financial constraints of the district. Waddell and Reed is a great example of a failed TIF effort that just couldn't be more appalling to see as a taxpayer, funding being removed from the school district. So I'll stop there. I don't know where I'm at in my time, but
you still have 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. The other element too is some of the diverse appointments to boards and commissions here that implement and affect TIF distribution. So as Rita said, TIF is a tool. We don't use a jackhammer to nail in a nail. So we just need to make sure that we're utilizing it correctly to facilitate positive growth and outcome in areas that need the TIF incentives and not to support corporate welfare.
Thank you. And Kandace, what about the city tiffing away our money?
I think I can just say ditto, and that would be the end of it. I think that we can all agree that it has been abused, and it is absolutely hurting the district. I just think about all of the things that we could do and all of the gaps that we can fill with the money that we've lost through TIFs. And so I think we have to get really creative on how to meet the city's needs, but also without harming the school district. And so I agree with what everyone else has said. I think it has been overused and it has been abused, and it's hurting our district. So we just got to get creative.
Thank you. Have one rather specific question. What effect will the filed bill HB 543 have on the Kansas City Public Schools? The bill allows a student in a public school district to become a non-resident student in another public school district. And I think this is another voucher, transfer, charter school. Do you have an idea of what effect it would have? And we will start with Manny.
Yeah, thanks for starting me. This is fun to keep talking about our money. So I think the reality is it's going to have a financial impact, right? As we start to try and figure out which schools need more resources, which don't year to year, we use enrollment data to help drive those discussions. The reality is if we create an opportunity here where there's so much transition and flow within the populations of our building, it becomes very challenging to appropriately plan. Similarly, there have been proposals and changes and modifications to this to consolidate many different highly impactful pieces of educational reform, what Republicans call educational reform, that have been added to these bills and amendments, and there's just been so much bad stuff compiled and proposed. This is an example of one of the boilerplates, unfortunately, that travels around the country and is dropped in Republican-led legislatures. And so it's not going to only affect KCPS. I think it would affect a lot of the districts within our region. And the inability to plan is probably the biggest challenge there. Everyone can talk about butts and seats and the finances that go with that. But the reality is an inability to truly coordinate and plan where your resources should or shouldn't be allocated based upon student populations and needs.
Thank you. Rita, what effect will House Bill 543 have?
You know, I think Manny's covered the financial impact. My question is, does it really give students an opportunity for improved achievement? And it seems like a piece of poorly thought through legislation without knowing how many students. Districts are permitted to refuse students, right? The external districts that students might be going to have to decide whether or not they're going to provide any open seats. If you're a parent who's trying to create a stable, positive, hopeful educational trajectory for your student, it's just another reason to bounce around between schools. And I think, frankly, one of the outcomes of the landscape that we have today is that instead of all of us rolling up our sleeves in a particular school or a particular LEA school district to solve problems, we just go down the street to the next one. The data suggests that students move far too often, and that undermines their academic journey. It also means that we're not working together to fix the problems, right? And in fact, I'll say it very quickly, there's a note in here about how can parents work with the board to create improvement. Talk to us. Frankly, board meetings are the least impactful place. Talk to us, email us, talk to us, but let's work together to try to improve the school before you move down to the next one on the street.
Patty?
Yeah, I think you can't overstate how much instability that would create, both for school systems and school buildings, but also for children and families. When Kansas City Public Schools has looked at its data on cohort retention, when students stay multiple years within the same school, when you see that cohort year to year to year, where they have a deep connection within the school, you see them actually perform at a higher rate than their classmates who bounce from school to school. So I don't believe it actually does generate anything significantly better for students. You know, I'm also a person who also committed to this district and didn't walk away and left, even though when things got rough. I think it's important to dig in and try to work on the things you need to have changed. And I think that you have a better chance of getting to the improvements by staying versus hopping place to place. Open enrollment is costly. It is an expensive and wasteful use of tax dollars because dollars start moving everywhere. We have to come up with duplicate services. We will not have the benefit of keeping track of children, and if, in fact, probably won't be able to track them well enough to ensure their graduation success. So I think it is poorly thought through legislation, and it should be stopped.
Kandace?
So I'll just name for you, I'm not a lobbyist. I haven't followed this bill closely, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. But I will tell you that I think we need to really focus on student achievement, academic achievement. If we have high performing schools, no one's gonna wanna leave, right? We're actually going to attract students in that way. And Manny, you good? Okay, so we're actually going to attract students in that way. And so I would like to see us put the focus on student achievement. And I think every parent would agree with that. Thank you.
Tanesha?
I agree with a lot of the conversation that's already taken place. I think it's obvious that there's an impact on funding. There's an obvious impact on enrollment, all of those things which could be detrimental to our school district. I think it also just brings or increases the competition, I think, within our local school system. I think it's already pretty divisive as is. I think this just absolutely adds to the narrative when you have students that ultimately kind of transfer and transition back and forth between the two entities. I agree 100% though with Kandace in that regardless of where we go with this conversation, it always has to come back to students and how ultimately it all impacts them in their learning.
Thank you. Well, we have another good dozen questions I could ask, but we are coming to close to the time to finish. So we are going to move on to our closing statements. You have 2 minutes for them. And we will do in reverse order to what we started with. So the first person for their 2-minute closing statement will be Rita.
First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, More Squared, the District Advisory Council, and all of the individuals who devoted time to this event. I can't tell you how much we need to broaden awareness of the Kansas City Public Schools. One of the biggest challenges I think we face when we talk about how do we connect to community is that too much of our community only knows the narrative of the Kansas City Public Schools of a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades ago. And one of the things that we need to do is speak up, speak out. Now that things are beginning to open up, we have more human encounters, engage those conversations. At the same time, I believe that we as a board need to be, every board member who's elected and who serves needs to find a way to make themselves accessible and to remind people that we are accessible. I believe that there are lots of platforms within the school district for parents to provide feedback through the DAC, through the new Talking Points app, through lots of efforts. But we live in a society right now where there are so many communication channels that you just kind of have to happen upon each other. And we need to find ways to better connect as we re-engage in human contact. So if I am fortunate enough to continue to serve on the board, the biggest thing that I would share with the audience tonight and anyone who watches this at any point in the future is talk to us, email us, call us, invite us for coffee, sit down and tell us about your hopes and your fears, the things that you want to see improve for our children today, because we want our students to achieve today. Thank you.
Thank you. Manny?
Yeah, again, I hate following Rita because she just hits on all the great points. No, I think it is truly an honor and privilege to serve with such amazing leaders next to me, learning from Dr. Bedell and his team about all the great success and work that we're doing here. I think as I look towards what folks should take away from tonight, I hope that you see beyond the political rhetoric, the talking points by special interests, and you see how successful KCPS is truly right now, how successful we are, and how we're not the district of the past that people keep talking about. We do have work to do still, but there are plans, I promise you, at least 3 or 4, and they're probably in those books right there, that focus on all of the mitigations that we can put in place. Does that mean we have all the solutions? Absolutely not. But I think that as I ask for your all support, I also ask you to support qualified, competent, and prepared leaders to serve so that we can maintain a level of consistency that we've had for so long that has been successful in this track record. I will vary and stray a little bit from my colleague Rita and say, don't email me, please. Call me, text me, shoot me a message. The reality is, unfortunately, in this role, we get so many emails that it's hard to keep up all the time. I am very public and present. I started tweeting, and we're trying to drag Rita along with us because educators flock towards the Twitter mode a lot better than some other social media platforms. So please reach out to me, as she has suggested, talk to us. We are here for you all. We want to be available. We want to talk through challenging situations. I prefer not to do it via Twitter feed, but if you want to, I'm down, I guess. So I look forward to the positive engagements we can have and the challenging opportunities that we have to face as well.
Thank you. Patty?
I'm running for re-election because I really believe that every child deserves a high quality education. I've been sitting here in this role and really working hard over the last 7 years to make sure that we get there. I really think that we are on a trajectory of improvement and success. And part of that is our own focused work, but part of that has to do with the community coming back in a really big way and starting to support Kansas City Public Schools. And I think that there are a lot of people who overlook the richness and the wonder and talent of children in our system. And I feel like I want to give voice to that, and I continue to challenge that. I'm an advocate for public education. I go to Jefferson City, I talk to legislators, and in every conversation I undertake, I make sure they understand I'm here representing these students and their learning opportunities, because we have a lot of challenges in this that we are facing in this school district right now that are coming squarely at us from Jefferson City and other organizations that would like to see us be undermined. I think that a strong city needs a thriving school district, and I'm running because I want to be a part.
Thank you. Tanesha,
I just wanted to thank all of the hosts for making tonight possible. I appreciate the opportunity to share more about who Tanesha Ford is. I might be new to have an interest in being a public servant in terms of elected office, but I am not new to this space. I've been working in education. I've been supporting and serving young people in education for 16 years. It has absolutely become my life's work, and children have absolutely always been my priority and will continue to be my priority. I do not have any greater desires of pursuing other opportunities besides school board. And so you can just be certain that my focus and my intentions will always be on improving student outcomes for all of our kids at all of our schools. I think that my experience is very unique, having worked with students that have come from this school district, seeing them graduate from high school and pursue post-secondary pathways, even many of them now graduates of college and who live and work in this community. I think that experience will be extremely invaluable as a board member in creating policies that would support the success of students prior to them leaving our school district. I'm a parent. My children are just at the forefront of their educational experiences. So it's the sense of urgency that I feel and that's in my soul for improving outcomes for students that I see that have experienced struggles in our school district is extremely important and extremely critical. I understand that we have a deep, dark history in our country and in our city that we can't ignore. We are at a place where we have to be honest about where we are, and at that place we can then start to heal and repair and improve better outcomes for our kids. So I would hope to be able to have your support on April 6th.
thank you. And Kandace.
First, I want to thank the host, League of Women Voters. It has been a pleasure speaking with you all today. If you walk away with anything, I want you to know that I'm a mom who is deeply committed to the work of education. I've committed my career and my life's work to education and to children. It is even more personal for me because my children are in the system. My son will be starting with the district. The long and short of it is that I want this district. I know this district can be globally recognized and not recognized for checking the boxes, but because we have a great school. Our children are brilliant. They need leaders. They need teachers in place that show up for them. And so I just want to see this district move with a sense of urgency and a laser focus on student achievement. I think it is a responsibility of the board to focus on people and not, again, these plans that are on a shelf. We need to think about how these policies impact the people on the ground. And so that will be my priority as a board member, to amplify the parent voice, to be a bridge builder, to acknowledge our where this district came from, and get really transparent and honest about where we are now so that we can move forward. I absolutely want the best for this district, and I know that we can